What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. As always, thank you for tuning in. Why are American troops dying in the Middle East again? Yes, that's right. We now have troops dying once again in the Middle East. I bet you didn't even know. I didn't realize we actually had soldiers over there fighting. This is once again another disastrous consequence of the 2020 election. Another disastrous consequence from electing Joe Biden. This is what the Democrats wanted. This is what the leftists want. So you have to ask yourself, how is it possible that these people can continue to vote for this type of chaos? I don't know, but we're going to get into this, and then we got a few other things I want to get into too. I want to get into the details about the about the hearing that took place on Thursday between an attorney that's representing Trump and another co-defendant in the Georgia RICO case and the Fani Willis prosecution team. This attorney drops the hammer down on this prosecution team, and I have to say, this guy is good. And so I got some audio from that hearing, and I actually posted it on my social media, but I want to get into the details about the coordination between the White House and the Georgia RICO case, because it's very important that people understand that there is coordination going on between the White House and all of these prosecutions. And that's exactly what this attorney says. So I'm going to get into that audio, but first I want to get into this because this is just breaking. This just happened today, and I'm going to try and release this show today, it's Sunday. Right now it's almost 6 o'clock p.m. on Sunday. We'll see if I can get it done in time. You know, I have to edit. I have to do all this crazy stuff. I'm getting better on the editing, folks, so I think I can probably start to do some live shows here soon. I really don't have the setup for it, but we're going to try and get there because, and just like in this instance where there's a breaking story that drops, we need to talk about it, and I need to get the content out to my listeners as fast as possible. So I'm going to get there, it's going to take a little time. So first off, let's get into this. I got an article from the Washington Examiner. Republicans call on Biden administration to strike Iran after deaths of U.S. service members. So here we go. Another escalation from the military-industrial complex to get our country in yet another war. This is it. This is the normalcy that they expect everybody to accept now. As if Donald Trump's presidency didn't happen. As if the American people didn't just witness peace and prosperity for 4 years during the Trump administration. They want things to go back to normal. And I refuse. And the people are sick and tired of it because the people can see right through this BS. So congressional Republicans, first, you know what? Let me go into actually what happened. And so here is a story from John Solomon over there at Just the News. He posted this article on Truth just a couple hours ago. He says at least 3 U.S. Army troops killed, more than 24 injured in Jordan. So this is hat tip to Madeline Hubbard. It says 3 U.S. Army troops were killed and at least 24 other service members were injured in Jordan in an overnight drone attack near the border with Syria, U.S. officials said Sunday. Quote, while we are still gathering the facts of this attack, we know it was carried out by radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. The attack on Tower 22 is the first time U.S. troops have been killed in the Middle East since Hamas invaded Israel on October 7th, 2023, per CNN. The attack on U.S. forces significantly escalates the already tense situation in the Middle East. Out of the respect for the families, the service members are not going to be identified until 24 hours after their next of kin has been notified. Quote, these service members embodied the very best of our nation, unwavering in their bravery, unflinching in their duty, unbending in their commitment to our country, Biden also said. So that was a comment from their commander-in-chief, who has now got more soldiers killed under his watch than Donald Trump. Is this not incredible how they completely lied to the American people, telling them that Joe Biden was going to bring normalcy, that the adults are back in office, the adults are back in power. You remember that crap? This is what they said. This is what they told the American people, that a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for normalcy. But like I said in the previous episode, in the last segment, this is normal, folks. If you recall, has there ever been a time in your lifetime? I mean, I'm 36, so I could say this. No, there has never been a time in my life where we have not been at war in the Middle East. In my lifetime. Other than the 4 years that Donald Trump was in office. Now, I'm not saying that we weren't in war, but you didn't hear about this stuff. You didn't hear about the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. And now these 3 troops that were killed over in Jordan. This is what's mind-boggling to me, is we are constantly told that we're not going to war, we're not sending troops, because this is a big deal, and it would be a bad idea. It would be a big mistake for Joe Biden to have troops being killed over there in the Middle East. And so what happens? There's troops over there anyways. Just a few days ago, 2 Navy SEALs, 2 or 5 Navy SEALs, gone, missing in action, trying to do a weapons, to carry out some type of mission to intercept some weapons, Iranian missiles, just gone. So already we have Navy SEALs missing, and now 3 U.S. troops killed over there in Jordan. And what's crazy is now the GOP is asking for retaliation. This is the problem. You have to retaliate, or else these people will keep on doing it. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but our bases have essentially been under attack over there in the Middle East for weeks now, months, ever since October 7th. From Syria, from Iranian-backed militia groups. Yeah, probably haven't heard a whole lot about it if, you listen to the corporate media or if you're a Democrat leftist. But yeah, so there's been attacks happening on our soldiers for the last few months since October. It's unbelievable. So back to this Washington Examiner article. Republicans call on Biden administration to strike Iran after deaths of U.S. service members. So congressional Republicans are calling on the Biden administration to strike Iran directly after a drone attack from one of its proxies killed 3 United States service members. Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the most prominent hawks in the Senate, led the charge, demanding Biden, quote, hit Iran now, hit them hard. These people, man, listen, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I'm just saying, why does it have to be this way? It doesn't have to be this way, folks. For the Democrats listening, or for people that are thinking about voting for Joe Biden, or for the people that are thinking they don't want to vote for Donald Trump, look at your situation. Look at this country's situation and tell yourself, it does not have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. If some people would just get over whatever it is that they have. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't like Donald Trump when he says that. Or I don't like Donald Trump when he does this. Or I don't like Donald Trump when he goes after this person. Seriously? We got to sit and rail on Donald Trump for his personal battles that he has with people or his personal flaws, and then have to watch this? So let me get this straight. People would rather watch death and destruction, war, famine, chaos, and absolute misery here in the United States, death and destruction on our people, all because they don't like what Donald Trump says or what the way he looks? This is madness, man. I know the American people are stronger than that. I'm not talking to the conservatives or Republicans who are voting for Trump or have voted for him in the past or plan on voting for him now. I'm talking about any Democrats or any independent that are thinking about this situation and looking out over the horizon and have witnessed the last 3 years from this Biden administration. Are we really going to not vote for Donald Trump? Are we really going to allow Joe Biden to retain power for another 4 years and watch this country turn to ashes, all because we don't like something Donald Trump says? Because Donald Trump is a flawed man like the rest of us? It doesn't make sense. This is why I always say, people that think this way are psychologically broken. They have been broken. The media has pinpointed a psychological operation on them and has managed to brainwash them. And I know it's a harsh word to sit there and call somebody brainwashed. It's almost kind of offensive. I get it. I would be pissed off if somebody called me brainwashed too. But then again, I wouldn't be this irrational. To me, I love my country more than I hate Donald Trump. Do I think Donald Trump is perfect? No. Do I like what he says? No. I don't really know about anything that he's done in his past. All I know is they've been investigating this guy for almost a decade. and have yet to find him guilty of a crime. And listen, if these people were to investigate me, hell, if these people were to investigate any of us, for that matter, as much as they investigate Donald Trump, you don't think they would find something? Of course they would. I mean, I'm talking anything. They are so desperate to find a crime that Donald Trump has committed, they're actually having to make stuff up. They're having to dust off laws, 150-year-old laws, to go after Trump for, because they cannot find anything else. That, ladies and gentlemen, is insane. So I'm not saying that he's the perfect man. We're all flawed. But I like I said, I love my country more than I hate Donald Trump. I'm not going to watch my country to get destroyed because I don't like something Donald Trump said, or the way he looks, or the way he handles his personal battles with other people. I'm just not going to do it. I don't like this crap, man. Not saying that we shouldn't retaliate against Iran or the Jordan militia groups. I just don't want to see people dying. That's it. And we didn't have to deal with this with Donald Trump. Because believe it or not, countries feared us under the Trump administration. You guys remember when they said Donald Trump was going to get us into World War III? Well, look where the hell we're at now. This seems like we're in a world war, folks. We have battles and conflicts all over the globe. And they're not just proxy wars anymore. We have U.S. troops dying on foreign soil once again. Here we are, back to normal. So I guess they were right about a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for normalcy. This is normal. But it's not the normal that we want. Donald Trump actually showed us what normalcy is. Donald Trump actually brought stability to this country, to this world. And so should the Biden administration retaliate? I don't want this administration touching anything. I'm to a point to where I would be happy if this entire cabinet, Joe Biden and the entire cabinet, just went down into a bunker somewhere and didn't do anything. Because at this point, everything this guy touches turns to crap. All right? He is like the reverse King Midas. Everything he touches turns to freaking crap, man. So no, I don't really want them to retaliate. I want Joe Biden as far away from this situation as possible. And I urge the same for Israel. Do not take any advice from Joe Biden. Just like Robert Gates said, the Obama's defense secretary, Joe Biden has been wrong on every single foreign policy his entire 40-year career. Now 50 years. So for 50 years, this guy has been wrong on foreign policy. And now we're entangled in multiple foreign conflicts across the globe? And people think voting for Joe Biden is a good idea? No, absolutely not. At this rate, Joe Biden and his cabinet and his administration will have us in full-blown kinetic nuclear war in the next 4 years at this rate. This guy has destroyed our southern borders. He has destroyed our economy. He has destroyed our peace around the world. He's destroyed our relationships. It's like everything that they accused Donald Trump of, Joe Biden has actually done. Remember when they said our allies, he would break ties with our allies. They still say that to this day. Well, what is Joe Biden doing? Joe Biden is trying to make allies with Iran, who we're paying money to, who's chanting death to America. This is the stupid stuff Donald Trump is always talking about our Washington establishment doing. What these people do is moronic. It's because they're not doing it for the right reasons, folks. They're doing it to benefit themselves, to benefit the military-industrial complex, to benefit the deep state or the Washington swamp or the establishment, whatever you want to call it. But the interests of the American people are no longer a priority for this fourth branch of government that's been created in our politics. It's clear and obvious at this point. You can't have a guy that's the first time ever in politics. The first outsider we've had since George Washington. You can't have a guy come in and bring peace and prosperity to the world and then tell everybody that this is actually normal. This may be the normal that they've forced onto us for the last 80 years, but I'm telling you folks, this is not normal. Donald Trump showed the entire world that it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to be in constant conflict. You don't have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't always have to be a struggle, like the government makes it, seem like. Oh, we're doing our best. Oh, there's an invasion at the southern border. Oh, we'll just pass another law. That's it. That'll fix it. It's like they fail to realize, like, yo, look, we don't need another law. We just need the Biden administration to enforce the laws that are already there. Because it's clear and obvious that the laws are there, are effective, or else Donald Trump wouldn't have been able to give us the best border we've seen in 50 years. That's what I'm saying. It's like we're in, like, bizarro world. It's like we're in opposite world, where the heroes are villains and the villains are heroes. And, like, Joe Biden is supposed to be this terrific leader, and that all the policies that we've been seeing the last 3 years are just terrific. And this life we're living now and the conditions we're seeing now are normal. Like, no, none of this makes sense, man. So back to the article. So here's Lindsey Graham on here's Lindsey Graham on Twitter, or X. I'm sending my condolences to the families of our fallen heroes in Jordan. I am also wishing a full recovery to those injured. Our forces in Jordan and Syria are there to protect the American homeland and to provide stability in the troubled region. It's just like, dude, these people, and we already did a show about how the weapons contractors, all the stocks in the military-industrial complex, like Boeing, Lockheed Martin, just Raytheon, go down the list. Every single one of those stocks has skyrocketed since the attack on Israel. Yeah. So these people, and you know, you can actually look up, it's public record to go in and look up the trades and the buys that these senators and these Congress people are making. And it's damn near all of them, except for a handful. I mean, it's a lot of these people. Lindsey Graham is one of them. Lindsey Graham has stock buys in places like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Boeing. So of course he would want this to happen. Because guess what? Every time a gun goes off, every time a shell goes off, is a dollar sign for Lindsey Graham. So instead of their, you know, like in that movie, Lord of War, you guys remember that movie from Nicolas Cage? Great, excellent movie. And I don't even really like Nicolas Cage as an actor. I think he's awful. But that movie was incredible. And you guys remember that part of the movie where every time the thing shot, the AK-47 shot and the round came out, it sounded like a cash register. It was like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's like exactly how I picture Lindsey Graham. Every time he looks at the TV and there's another tank shell being fired off, or there's another magazine being replaced, or there's a fully automatic machine gun just spitting out ammo. Like Lindsey Graham and all these corrupt politicians that have stock buys in weapons contracts, like their eyes just light up with dollar signs. And so, of course, this guy wants, you know, conflict to increase. Of course, they're begging for retaliation. But again, what do? I don't know. This is what I'm saying. I don't know what to do. All I know is I don't like people dying. I'm not an interventionist, and I'm not an isolationist. I understand that, you know, we got a big stick and we need to wave it around. I get that. Peace through strength, all that stuff. I get it. But on the other hand, I think about it and I'm like, well, you know, maybe if the American voter would just stop voting for people like Joe Biden and stop voting for people like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, maybe we wouldn't have to constantly be at war. You know what I mean? Maybe we wouldn't have to bomb a city or blow up a family of innocent people like Joe Biden did. Oh, yeah. You guys remember? Joe Biden blew up a car full of innocent people, and like 7 of them were kids. Well, the media doesn't want to say that, do they? So here's Senator John Cornyn. He says, target Tehran, later clarifying in a follow-up post that he wasn't calling to bomb Iranian forces specifically, but the IRGC and the Quds Force terrorist facilitators. Senator Tom Cotton was more vague in his demands, though urged Biden to strike Iran's terrorist forces outside of and within Iran. Quote, Joe Biden emboldened Iran for years by tolerating attacks on our troops, bribing the Ayatollahs with billions of dollars, and appeasing them to no end. He has said in a statement, quote, he left our troops as sitting ducks, and now 3 are dead and dozens wounded. Sadly, as I've predicted would happen for months, the only answer to these attacks must be devastating military retaliation against Iran's terrorist forces, both in Iran and across the Middle East. Anything less will confirm Joe Biden as a coward, unworthy of being commander-in-chief. Here we go. Tom Cotton just throwing it all out there. Go to war. bomb everything in Iran. We'll just carpet bomb the Middle East. While not calling for a strike, in a statement posted on X, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene demanded to know why U.S. forces were in Jordan. Bingo. Why the hell do we have forces in Jordan? Did you know that? I didn't know that. It's almost as if we're at war. And the media is just reporting to us that 3 soldiers are dead as if it's a normal thing, like we all expected it because we're in war right now. Like, nobody knew we had freaking soldiers over there in Jordan. Nobody knew we had Navy SEALs doing weapons interceptions on Iranian missiles. like all this stuff, it's like the media is just reporting on this as if it's been happening all along and we knew about it. This is insane. So here's another quote. Today, we are focused on remembering and honoring our fallen heroes, but tomorrow will come quickly and wise decisions must be made, she wrote. As a member of Congress, I demand to know why our troops are in Jordan. What were our Navy SEALs doing when they were killed? What AUMF is the DoD operating under? And many more questions. I agree. So many more. A drone attack hit Tower 22, a U.S. base in Jordan on the border of Syria. CENTCOM announced on Sunday. Aside from the 3 killed, dozens more service members were wounded. The deaths were the first fatalities among U.S. troops since sustaining attacks from Iranian-backed militias following the beginning of the Israel-Hamas war. So there you go, folks. Breaking news. 3 soldiers killed over in Jordan. Most likely expect a retaliation effort from the U.S. forces. So we're essentially going to be going into the war. This is exactly what Iran wanted. This is exactly what our enemies want, is the America to be weak and fighting wars all over the globe. You know, this is almost identical to how the Roman Empire fell, right? Their military was so big. They had their tentacles so stretched out across the world. Even their own taxes, like their own economy, could not sustain the size of their military force. And so it's the exact same things that we're seeing happen here in this country is exactly what happened in Rome before it fell. And it's not just Rome. In fact, we did a show where it was talking about all ancient civilizations. So the 4 major ancient civilizations between China, the Mongols, the Chinese dynasty, the Mongols, ancient Rome, and the Aztec, like all these ancient civilizations all collapsed because of the same reasons that we're watching right now. Because of over-industrialized military. Yes, the military-industrial complex has been going on for many, 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 many years. And ancient Rome was one of them. You had a separation in class separation, where you had the rich ruling class elites that were so disconnected from the regular citizens that there was a complete divide in their society. They had no clue what was going on down on the streets. And the whole thing just collapsed, almost identical to what we're watching today from our country. And now I just find it so shocking how one guy, Donald Trump, a multi-billionaire real estate mogul from New York, can run for president for the first time and win, come in, and give this country the best 4 years it's seen in decades, all while being stabbed in the back, impeached twice, under congressional investigation, and threatened with criminal prosecution, but still managed to give this country the best years it's seen in decades. He was able to conduct peace. He was able to give the American people in the world peace and prosperity. And in 3 years, Joe Biden and the Washington establishment just completely annihilates all of it. On the first week in office, folks, Joe Biden reversed all of Donald Trump's border policies. So nobody can sit there and tell me that Joe Biden and the Democrats don't want this open border. Nobody can sit there and tell me that, it's just going to take more money to the southern border in order for them to secure it. It's all bullshit. It's so brazenly offensive to me and to you that these politicians and these deep state operatives, these swamp creatures, think the American people are that dumb. They really do think we're dumb. And for the most of us, the willfully ignorant ones, which is, half of the Democrat Party, they're perfectly fine with this. In fact, they are so fine with this. In 10 months, they're going to go to the poll booth and they're going to vote for it again. This is how psychologically broken these people have become. How emotionally damaged they are. where they look at this situation, death and destruction, and say, oh yeah, another 4 years? Sure, please, bring it on. Like, it's so mind-blowing. They cannot get over their hatred for one man long enough for them to realize just how damaging and destructive their ideas and the Biden administration really is. This is what it is. They hate Donald Trump more than they love their country. The complete opposite of conservatives right now. So, and also, I want to remind you that all these things that we see around us, all this is self-inflicted. Joe Biden has done all of this to us. The reason why Donald Trump had his foot on the throats of Iran, and you didn't see these militia attacks, you didn't see terrorism being brought out throughout the Middle East from Iranian-backed militia groups, is because Donald Trump did not give them the money to do it, unlike Joe Biden did. So I want to remind everybody, Joe Biden removed the tariffs from Iran back in 2021. Another thing he did in his very first year in office. And I have the article here from Newsweek. This is hat tip to Brian Steele, August 13th, 2021. So the first year of the Biden administration. You ready for this? Quote, Biden is giving up powerful U.S. financial sanctions on Iran. So he removed the sanctions from Iran. So since taking office, the Biden administration has taken a series of calculated steps. Calculated steps to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal. Most recently, it waived sanctions on the Iranian oil trade, allowing Tehran access to frozen funds in foreign banks that it can now use to fund terrorism. Even the sanctions that remain on the books are not being enforced. U.S. financial sanctions can be used to end Iran's nuclear ambitions and the clerical regime's support of terrorism. Joe Biden did this, folks. This is what Joe Biden did in August 13th of 2021. This is the appeasement strategy of the Obama administration. This is why a lot of conservatives, Republicans say this is the third term of Barack Obama. Obama is pulling the strings behind the scene, folks. I don't care what anybody says. Barack Obama is behind 100% all of this stuff that we have been witnessing the last 3 years. This is identical to the Obama policies, the Obama ideology and philosophy, the Iranian nuclear deal. Somehow, some way, these morons, yes, I'm calling Barack Obama a moron. He may be smart when it comes to politics, but I'm telling you right now, this guy, he may have been smart his first year. I voted for him in 2008. And, but by the time 2012 rolled around, Barack Obama was not the same as he was in 2008. Barack Obama, this fourth branch of government, the Washington establishment, the military-industrial complex broke Barack Obama. And this guy actually thought this was his idea. And I'm sure he was, I'm sure there was whispers in his ear to manipulate his thinking on this. They actually thought allowing Iran to have nuclear weapons would benefit the world. This is how dumb these people are. I'm serious. This is why I say they need to purge the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. and replace it with regular Americans. And then, after that's complete, add term limits. 10 years, you're done, you're gone. This is what happens when you have a rogue, out-of-control government. You have stupid ideas like this. Let's give Iran nuclear power so they'll stop committing acts of terrorism around the world. How dumb does that sound? And so what they did was this appeasement strategy to just give essentially whatever Iran wanted. Donald Trump came in and he put his damn foot on the throats of these people. And he said, hail to the no. And he's put on these wild sanctions on Iran. Why did he do that? Because, and we explained this before, this is the terrorism going on in Iran and in the Middle East in general is a will versus capacity issue. This is how you have to break it down. Will versus capacity. These, militia groups, these terrorist organizations like the Tehran, all these terrorist organizations, these Iranian-backed terrorist organizations, they have always had the will to commit acts of terrorism, to be these savage, barbaric beasts and kill innocent people. They've always had the will to be that way. But during Donald Trump's administration, they did not have the capacity. Donald Trump removed the capacity for them to carry out these barbaric, savage attacks on innocent people. And so it is a will versus capacity. You have to remove one of these factors, because once you give both the will and the capacity to carry out acts of terrorism, these terrorists will carry out acts of terrorism. And so Donald Trump put his foot on the throats of their finances, because he knew without money, these people would not be able to do anything. And within just 3 freaking years, these people now have billions of dollars in their coffers. They have, I don't know how many missiles. It's attack after attack after attack. And not only that, this is the most devastating thing. The $80 billion worth of weapons and military equipment that was left in Afghanistan after Joe Biden's disastrous withdrawal. Oh yeah, don't anybody ever forget the pallets of cash that Joe Biden and the Biden cabinet left in Afghanistan after that disastrous withdrawal that got 13 American soldiers killed. Never forget that. Never forget the $40 billion worth of weapons, small arms, millions upon millions of rounds of AK-47. We went down the list one time. I did a 10-minute video of an article that the Gateway Pundit released of a list of all the things that was left in Afghanistan. It took me 10 freaking minutes to go down that list of supplies, weapons, and ammunition that was left in Afghanistan. 10 minutes. I'm talking helicopters, up-armored Humvees, 50 cals, howitzer cannons. We're talking enough equipment to militarize an entire country, to supply an entire army's worth of weapons. That's what Joe Biden did in Afghanistan. That is exactly the ripple effect that I was talking about when Afghanistan happened. I told everybody the day it happened, and I'm not the only one, we all said this. As soon as Afghanistan happened and that disaster took place, we all knew that was not going to be the end of it, and that the cause and effect of Joe Biden's disastrous plan to get out of Afghanistan was going to have ripple effects that carried on years and possibly even decades after that event because of Joe Biden's disastrous plan to get out of there. And here we are. This is that wake of damage we knew we were going to see, was all this death and destruction, terrorist attacks, all of it from the Middle East. Because Joe Biden gives Iran the capacity to pull out these acts of terrorism by financing their terrorism, where Donald Trump did not. It's very easy. And then someone's going to have to explain to me why it's a good idea to remove powerful sanctions from Iran, the world's #1 state sponsor for terrorism. Like, who thinks that's a good idea, folks? Nobody does. And Joe Biden may be as dumb as a rock. He may have the IQ of a bagel, but Joe Biden, he can't be this dumb. I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So this stuff is done on purpose. There's no way anybody can be this dumb. So why would you remove sanctions off Iran, knowing that for 4 years during the Trump administration, no terrorism was being conducted, they were on the run, and Donald Trump almost had them choked out of existence? Why would you reverse all of that? No rational, reasonable person would think that was a good idea. So back to this article. It's a great article. And Newsweek is pretty lenient on Joe Biden, too. So as the world's preeminent financial power, the United States has a responsibility to work to deny Iran the financial resources it needs to build a nuclear program, develop ballistic missiles, and support terrorism and terrorist proxies. That's another thing a lot of people ain't talking about. If Iran-backed militias and Iran as a whole is willing to conduct these acts of terrorism, what do you think they're going to do when they have their hands on a nuclear weapon? Of course. I mean, it's the only logical conclusion to come up with, is once Iran have their hands on a nuclear weapon, they are going to use it. Why? Because they are terrorists, and you do not negotiate with terrorists. These people don't get this, or they, like I said, or they do, but it's all on purpose. They're doing it on purpose. So sanctions generally aim to change behavior or deny the enemy something it wants for nefarious purposes. The economic and foreign policy tool is uniquely powerful for us due to the importance of the dollar and the U.S. financial system. President Donald Trump's maximum pressure campaign against Iran showed the true force of the U.S. financial sanctions. The sanctions prevented Tehran from spending the money on malign activities while still protecting humanitarian trade with Iran. Furloughed fighters were forced to withdraw from Syria and had their pay cut because their backer was out of money. In addition, and unlike previous administrations, Trump's effective use of sanctions allowed us to bring captured Americans home without ransom payment or pallets of cash. Even Iranian President Hassan Rouhani admitted that Iran had lost $200 billion because of U.S. sanctions. Iranian officials disclosed that the country's oil revenue had decreased from $100 billion a year to just $8 billion in 2019. In addition, Iran's foreign currency reserves fell by 98%. These people were almost destroyed. Think about that, folks. The Iranian militant groups were almost gone in 4 years of the Trump administration. And what did Joe Biden do? Reversed all of it. And this is why you see Iran doing what it's doing. I mean, it's common sense, man. So the Biden administration's decision to lift sanctions on Iranian oil undermines American influence and gives Iran leverage on the ongoing nuclear talks. Quote, sanctions relief is a sophisticated way of saying we are giving you money. The pallets of cash that the Obama administration sent to Tehran were offensive. But Biden's sanctions relief is dangerous and sends a bad signal to the rest of the world. Sanctions have tangible effects on Iran's ability to fund terrorism and develop a nuclear weapon. We must continue to pressure the Iranian regime to end its sponsorship of terrorism and its work to develop a nuclear weapon. Plain as day. And this article was written August of 13. And guess what happened October 7th? That savage, barbaric attack on the innocent people in Israel. So because Joe Biden gave billions and billions of dollars, and Obama, because these people, these idiots, gave billions and billions of dollars to Iran, this is what you get. So after Iran's militant groups were almost choked out of existence, the Biden administration and Barack Obama props up and essentially refunds the entire program, almost as if Iran has undercover spies inside the walls of our Congress. Because why else would you do this? Unless you had somebody within the bureaucracy that was like a spy for the Iranian government, talking and whispering in congressmen's ears. So I don't know what's going to happen. I just wanted to release this real quick. I'm actually going to be working on another segment right after this, getting into the details of the Georgia case and that hearing where Trump's attorney dropped the hammer and the judge is ordering White House documents. That's a pretty big situation. I want to get into the details. Now, last segment that we did, we talked about how the willful ignorance from the left, and we kind of, we just countermeasured the left's talking points about how every time the Republicans and conservatives investigate these obvious weaponizations, these obvious political persecutions of Trump, they call them obstructing justice. So that's what we talked about in the last segment. But now I want to get into the details of what we know so far in regards to the Georgia cases, some of the Florida case, and the cases in D.C., and how they're all connected and being coordinated by the White House. So that's what I want to talk about in the next segment. So I want to release this segment today so everybody gets a heads up about what's happening in Iran. I'm sure there's a lot more that I want to talk about. I just can't think of anything off the top of my head. But just know, ladies and gentlemen, just know that during the Trump administration, the United States had their foot on the throats of Iran. And just like it said in this article, they were almost choked out of existence, where their oil revenue had decreased from $100 billion to just $8 billion in 2019. And their foreign currency reserves fell by 98%. Just remember that. In 2019, their foreign currency reserves fell by 98%. The Iranian regime was almost gone. And Joe Biden and the Barack Obama appeasement strategy propped them back up. And I would probably say that that the blood of these people's hands are all on Joe Biden and Barack Obama for their stupid appeasement strategy of Iran. And not only that, but you just wait, and it's actually terrifying to think about Iran ever getting their hands on nuclear weapons. It will be the fault of Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And just remember, come election time, when they replace Joe Biden with Michelle Obama, just remember, a Michelle Obama will be the same thing as a Barack Obama. So you will be getting a 4th term of Barack Obama. Tell me that's not freaking terrifying. And so that's why we gotta get ahead of the Michelle Obama thing. I got a lot of stuff to talk about her too. So I'm going to go ahead and get off here and go ahead and release this segment today. So if you guys could, I appreciate it. Follow the show on Rumble. I promote Rumble for obvious reasons. You can also find the show on YouTube, but I'm not promoting YouTube. It's not happening. After they censored my first few episodes, I'm not doing it, man. I'm not gonna give my content to a bunch of commies, man, that they want to censor people's speech all the time. I'm not going to do it, but I'll post it there because it has the biggest reach, man. And that is the name of the game, is just to inform as many people as possible. So I have to. I got to put it on there for now until my Rumble page, until I can get by with just Rumble, I have to use YouTube. It's no different than what Steven Crowder and them are doing by just kind of guiding the traffic from YouTube onto Rumble, which is a great idea. Bongino does the same thing. So yeah, if you could follow the show on Rumble. Also, you can find the podcast on any podcast platform, and you can find my social media on any social media platform. All you have to do, just DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you have, just search my name, Steven Tauriello, Tauriello. There's not too many of us out there. It will pull up all my content on every platform, podcast, videos, whatever it is you want to follow. And please, if you could, I'd appreciate it. Follow the show and leave a review. Leave a 5-star review on this podcast. If you're listening to the audio on a podcast, leave a review for me. I really appreciate that. Give me some feedback. Let me know what's going on. And if you have any tips or you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me, StevenTaurielloShow@gmail.com. I always respond back to those emails. If you got a tip you want to send me, or you want to talk about something, or you just want to talk in general, reach out to me, StevenTaurielloShow@gmail.com, and I'm going to go ahead and work on that next segment, so I'll be talking to you guys here in a little bit. I want you guys to have a good day. Have a great Sunday. God bless you, and God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.